are ready. All right. Are we getting there recording or not? Oh, there we go. Thank you. All right, let's roll.
Recording in progress.
There we go. All right, welcome to the Historic Review Board meeting for Tuesday, January 27th. At this time, we'll call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call.
All right, Board Member Ecker.
Here.
Board Member Green.
Here.
Board Member Fulkerson.
Here.
Board Member Lawrence.
Here.
And Chair Powell.
Here. All right, great, thank you. Do you want to do this before public comments or after?
Do we have any public comments?
Anybody sign up for public, okay? Oh. All right, then we will move on. Before the public hearing, though, we are going to add something to the agenda, which we did not have, and we need to do this in January. So we are going to vote on officers for the Historic Review Board this evening. So at this time, I will take, let's see, let's go with the chair first. So are there any nominations for chair?
I nominate Tim Powell for chair.
Okay, we have a nomination. We have a second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, next is vice chair. Do we have any nominations for vice chair?
I'll nominate Julia Fulkerson for vice chair.
I second Julia Fulkerson for vice chair.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for Julia as vice chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nobody wants to commit?
Sounds like an opposed. I don't know.
You can abstain.
That's okay. I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Okay, we have our new officers for the coming year. Thank you very much. All right, we will start with our public hearing now. And I will read our script here. Okay, let's see. We have one public hearing this evening, and that public hearing is HR 25-00014, and that is a new construction of a 6-unit multifamily building at the Sarah Hughes House, which is housed at 1102 7th Street. At this time, our role is to conduct the public hearing and to make decisions about the matter before us. In making those decisions, we must apply the applicable codes and laws and cannot vary from or change those laws or codes. Members of the Historic Review Board are to be unbiased. Before the start of the hearing, I will ask the Historic Review Board members whether they have any potential conflicts, such as family, financial, or business relationships with any of the applicants or with regard to the land in question. I will also ask whether any of the Historic Review Board members have discussed the application in question with any of the parties or have independent knowledge of relevant facts, such as from a visit to the site in question. Any member of the audience may question any Historic Review Board member about their disclosures. A staff report has been prepared for each application and has been made available to the public 7 days before the first public hearing. The staff report identifies the approval criteria that apply to each applicant's proposal. Staff has analyzed the criteria which are contained in the staff report. This quasi-judicial hearing procedure that the Historic Review Board will follow is set out in state law and the Oregon City Municipal Code. The hearing procedure steps are shown on the Historic Review Board website. Public testimony will be called on in the order it was requested in advance of the meeting. If you have not emailed city staff at planning@orcity.org to request to speak or would like to testify, please raise your virtual hand if we have anybody online, or a physical hand when I ask if there are others in the audience who would like to participate. For the public record, please begin all testimony stating your name, city of residence. If you'd like to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please state your mailing address or email address. Testimony and evidence should be directed toward the applicable approval criteria. If you believe other criteria apply in addition to those addressed in the staff report, identify and discuss those criteria and explain how and why you believe they apply to the application under consideration. Any person may submit written material while the public record is open on each application. Any written materials received by the city staff during the time period in which the record is open will be placed in the record. Written materials submitted during the hearing must be presented to the city staff in order to become part of the record. If a person intends for PowerPoint presentations, reports, pictures, or other exhibits used in their oral testimony to be placed in the record, copies must be submitted to the city staff while the record is open. If they're not given to staff, they will not be included in the record. Anyone wishing a continuance to present additional evidence and testimony or to keep the record open to respond to new evidence must make that request before the public testimony portion of the hearing is closed. This is a lot longer than we got. If the Historic Review Board makes a decision with which you disagree, any issue which you may wish to appeal must have been raised on the record for the consideration of the City Commission or LUBA or both. Without raising the issue on the record with sufficient detail and accompanied by statements or evidence that the city and all parties can respond to the issue will not be deemed appealable to the City Commission or State Land Use Board of Appeals. In addition, the failure of an applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient detail to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in each court. Okay. So at this, let's see, I guess I should say this too. For public testimony, we'll give the applicant 15 minutes and then 5 minutes for a representative of a recognized neighborhood association, government agency, or any incorporated public interest organization, 3 minutes for individuals, and 5 minutes for the applicant's rebuttal. All right, very good. Now, at that point, we will go with the staff report.
I think this is a continuation from the last meeting, but if there's any change in ex parte contact or visited the site.
I guess, yeah, we should say that.
I have no ex parte contact and I have visited the site.
Okay.
No ex parte contact, and I have visited the site.
And I have no ex parte contact, and I have visited the site.
I have no ex parte contact, and I have visited the site.
And I also have no ex parte contact and have visited. And of course, this is from a carryover from the last meeting. So we've all heard that information at that point. All right, now we'll go with staff report.
Good evening, Chair Powell and board members. I'm Jude Tadeus, planner with the City of Oregon City Community Development Department, and tonight I am presenting to you the continuation of the staff report and recommendations for GLUA 25-00045 and HR 25-00014, the historic review for new construction of a 6-unit multifamily building, refuse enclosure, and bike parking shed at 1102 7th Street, the Sarah Hughes House landmark property. Okay. And this, oh, there we go. Okay.
I'll do it. There you go.
There we go. All right. So, this is just a refresher from what we talked about at our last session. After reviewing sort of the building design as it was and its location on the property, that created some issues with fire separation and had implications for things like windows and porch posts and that sort of thing. The direction that staff and the applicant received from this body was that egress areas at the southeastern lot line may be resolved by high-mounted mini-split units. Outboard porch posts may be removed to retain wider set inboard posts or a floating porch cover or sprinkler. Not a firewall extension, porch cover still needed. Porch depth may also be reduced to accommodate more egress area at the rear along the southeastern lot line. Front facade second floor cantilever should not increase from proposed without additional decorative elements to mitigate its impact. And direction concluded with maintaining at least 5 feet of building separation to resolve the window and egress issues between the new structure and the Sarah Hughes House. So, the applicant has presented a revised site plan and building design. And now that this presentation's going, my advance thing isn't
That's
working
okay,
anymore.
just tell me next slide.
Okay, perfect. Next slide. There we go. So this document here is the new site plan, and I have called out the elements of the plan that we're going to be looking at here. As you can see, the front porch depth has been reduced by a foot, and the building is now a foot closer to JQ Adams. The building's been moved a foot off of the southwestern property line there, where we had eave and gutter encroachment issues, and then the foundation and drain pipe encroachment issues on the neighboring property, and they've proposed to move the building in a foot to mitigate, or not to mitigate, but to no longer encroach. The building's been moved 2 feet off of the southeastern property line there, so it's now, the wall is now 5 feet from the lot line instead of 3. So the egress windows and egress area issue is being addressed, and then as the building separation between the existing landmark and the new construction has been increased to 5 feet as well. And then we can also talk about the 2 accessory structures, because our the last meeting had so many elements to it that needed to be considered. I decided not to bring up the bike shed and the trash enclosure at that time. I figured it would be much more appropriate for, a meeting like this, where there were fewer questions involved. So these are the elements that we're going to talk about. Let's see here. The Historic Review Board should consider these 2 small accessory structures. One's a bike shed and one's a refuse enclosure. And we can go to the next slide here. When the applicant graciously provided the revised plans, I had Guy Altman, who was the building plans examiner, who came here and discussed the fire separation and other building issues. I had him take a look at the revised plans as well, and this is the comment that he added to the record. And basically, the applicant has addressed all of the items that need concern the Historic Review Board in the building location, size, window impacts, egress impacts, all of that. This aspect here that you see is something that can simply be addressed prior to issuance of a building permit. So, so the applicant has sharpened their pencils and done their homework and addressed a lot of these concerns. And we're going to look a little bit more at them. Let's see here. Once the, Mr. Altman mentioned that once the imaginary property line separating the 2 buildings, and which will then tell the building department to treat them separately, is established on their site plan for their building permit, the removal of the window from the Sarah Hughes House will be unnecessary. And all the other previous concerns that might involve your jurisdiction seem to have been resolved with their updates, but we can take a look at them here. So next slide, please. All right, so this is what was. Next slide.
Oops, sorry.
This is what they're proposing. And the next slide is a comparison of the 2, the old on the left, the new on the right. So you can kind of see the changes that they're proposing. It looks like they've narrowed up the building, removed the porch posts, made the porch cover there a little bit shallower, and brought the building about a foot closer to the property line. It looks like the front doors are now next to each other rather than outboard, the 2 outboard doors being outboard of the windows. But we still have the paired windows up above. Let's see here. The porch post removal there toward the lot line now addresses the concerns about firewall opening. So that's another element that they dealt with. If we could go to the next slide. That's the old view from this side. And the new view is on the next slide. Just to kind of get an idea of you can kind of see a little bit better how the buildings are about 2 feet further apart than they were before. And then let's go to the next slide where the two are compared, old versus new. Let's go to the next slide here. So item 1 on the list of items of direction that you gave to the applicant was concerning the mini splits in the southeast lot line egress. So this is the revised building position. You can see marked out on the plan there that the wall is 5 feet from the property line. And that green measurement there to scale is measurement that I put on this plan. The outer extent of those mini splits to the property line is now 3 feet 11 3/4 inches, providing the necessary 3 feet of egress out the bedroom windows between the building and the rear lot line. So let's see here.
So Jude, you're saying, sorry, can I speak?
Yeah.
Okay. You're saying that they're going to keep the units on the ground where they were before?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep, the mini splits are going to stay ground mounted. They don't need to be lifted to provide egress because the building's moved to provide egress. Yep. Next slide, please. So items 2, 3, and 4 from that list that we looked at earlier of the direction you provided. These revised plans show the removal of the porch posts, which resolves the aperture in the firewall issue. The porch has been reduced in depth by 1 foot, and the second floor cantilever has not increased over the original proposal. All of these items comply with the Historic Review Board's directions from the November meeting. Next slide, please. The building separation question. As you can see here, I've highlighted these call-out measurements. The applicant has narrowed the building so that it now maintains 5 feet of separation from the Sarah Hughes House. If the applicant follows Mr. Altman's instructions and draws an imaginary property line on the site plan showing separate buildings, then no window or meter removal on the Sarah Hughes House will be necessary to maintain a minimum 3-foot egress area with existing meters and mini splits remaining in place. They don't even have to move the meters in the mini split. And the call outs on this, I don't know how easily you can see it either on your iPads or up here, but the minimum area between the meters and the wall of the new building is 4 feet. So it's in excess of that 3 feet minimum egress requirement. So the applicant was able to accommodate more even than what was requested. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about the bicycle parking shed here. The location on the site plan I've shown, as well as on that JQ Adams facing elevation. Covered bicycle parking is a requirement in our site plan and design review code for multifamily construction. They're accommodating the minimum of 2 for the number of units being served here through this secured accessory structure. So the addition of this is fulfilling requirements for a separate land use decision, but the form that it takes can be determined by you, the Historic Review Board. The front and side facades of this bicycle parking structure would be visible from JQ Adams, with the side of the structure also being visible from 7th, albeit about 56 feet back from the street on 7th and 37 feet back from the front facade of the Sarah Hughes House. Structures to be located between the right-of-way abutting JQ Adams and the side facade of the Sarah Hughes House, about 5 feet northeast of the external stairwell there, and about 16 inches from the exterior wall of the landmark. Next slide, please. This is a plan view and elevations. The callouts on the plan show cedar fencing as the proposed treatment on the exterior, even though it's not rendered exactly. The applicant proposes a 6-foot-high, 33-square-foot bicycle parking shed using metal shed roofing on a 1/12 slope, and cedar fencing for siding. Post materials are unclear based on the revised plans. Historic Review Board Policy 7 requires accessory structures under 200 square feet to be sided, roofed, and painted to match the associated landmark in order to be approved at a staff level. And this structure would not match the Sarah Hughes House as proposed. Given the size and significance of the structure, though, the Historic Review Board may accept this proposal or may condition the approval of the structure based on revised findings. So I thought I'd bring that aspect up. It's a small bike shed, 33 square feet, but it does sit between the right-of-way and the landmark. And so those are certain items to consider. And if it met his HRB Policy 7 for accessory structures, we wouldn't necessarily need to talk about it, but alas. So the next slide will show the refuse enclosure. Now this it's the same deal. A refuse enclosure is required for multifamily developments under our site plan and design review code. One of the requirements of that section is that the structure shall be located in a manner easily and safely accessible to collection vehicles. So given the site layout, there are some challenges with that. And this enclosure, it's my understanding, is intended not to hold a dumpster that is going to get pulled out, but to hold the recycling and garbage boxes that get wheeled out to the curb. But ingress and egress of those receptacles is important for this structure to work properly. This structure is supposed to be 6 feet high, 38 square feet. Again, 1/12 metal shed roofing. Post materials unclear based on the plans. The material they're proposing for siding is a little bit unclear as well. Locating the structure is also, once we get to the site plan on the next page, this structure is located less than a foot off the property line, and HRB Policy 7 permits structures to be reviewed if they're 3 feet off the property line at a staff level, but any closer requires your review as well. So this is not just a design aspect, it's a closeness to the property line aspect that you'll be considering this evening as well. If they move the structure, what is it, 2 feet 4 inches, 2 feet 7.5 inches from off the property line to get it to the 3 feet, it's questionable whether there's going to be room to open those doors and move the receptacles in and out between there and the Sarah Hughes House. So that's something to consider as well. This photo to the right is a view from 7th, and that's looking down the side lot line there. The trash enclosure is proposed to be not just 50 some odd feet behind the street tree here, but there's an additional tree further back, if you look closely at the image, that would mostly obscure this structure from view of the right-of-way, and well behind the front facade of the Sarah Hughes House as well. Let's see here. Again, the structure itself is a requirement of the site plan and design review code, but you as the Historic Review Board, because the proposal doesn't meet HRB Policy 7, its design and location and that sort of thing are things that you are able to consider. And you can accept this proposal as is or condition the approval of the structure based on revised findings. So that'll be another item. Other than that, next slide. So kind of in summary here, the applicant, with the revised site plan and elevation drawings, the applicant has revised the project to address all of the points highlighted by the Historic Review Board when last we met in November. Mini splits are no longer need to be mounted on the walls along the southeastern elevation. The applicants moved the wall to be 5 feet off the lot line, and there's more than 3 feet of egress now, according to their proposal. Applicants retained the front porch cover and removed all the porch posts as directed. The applicants reduced the front porch depth by 1 foot to partially accommodate the movement of the structure 2 feet off the interior lot line. and the new porch depth is now 5 feet where 6 feet was previously proposed. Cantilever of the front second floor facade is not increased beyond the 2 feet that were initially proposed. The existing Sarah Hughes House and the new building would now be separated by 5 feet of distance. And I've included a condition of approval in my recommendations to accommodate Mr. Altman's comments on the site plan imaginary lot line. So given those items, that kind of knocks out items 1 and 2 here on this slide. The question is, are these changes to the building position and design sufficient for, does it satisfy your requirements for this historic review board? And are the location and materials proposed for the bike parking shed and trash enclosure sufficient, or should they change? And if they need to change, how so? So these are the items under consideration. Next slide. These are the first 3 proposed conditions of approval. They're pretty generic and familiar, most of them are, given the design of the building. But this condition number 3 includes our building plans examiner's concerns about the imaginary property line in the conditions of approval for this. We can go to the next slide here. Yep. We'll go back one, if you could. So again, these are just common. We've got condition 5 here that has them replacing the vinyl window on the Sarah Hughes House, which was subject to 2016 and 2018 code enforcement requests, with windows that meet HRB policy 10. So resolution of that code enforcement case from about 10 years ago is going to get lumped into this as well. So we go back to conforming status on that on the Sarah Hughes House. Next slide. Again, these are pretty standard window conditions.
Sure, and Jude, if you mind, I think one thing that I'd like the applicant to speak to tonight is the revised front elevation second-story windows don't show that they're 1/1s. And I just want to know, sometimes when the CAD drawing just doesn't capture that. If there's an egress problem and it needs to be a casement, there are casement windows that appear to be 1/1. So we can let the applicant speak to that, and that may be something you want to add to condition number 7 to say either that needs to be 1/1 or a casement that provides the appearance of a 1/1.
Thank you. And then the next slide here, condition for simple exterior lighting appropriate to the existing building design. And then I've reserved conditions 9 and 10 if you deem conditions necessary for the bike parking shed and the trash enclosure. So that leaves us with our options. Approve HR 250014 with the recommended findings and conditions. Approve them with revised findings. Deny and provide further direction to staff and the applicant, or continue, provide direction to staff and the applicant, and keep the public record open until the next meeting on February 24th. So if the Historic Review Board chooses to add conditions of approval related to the bicycle parking shed and trash enclosure, option 2 will be your course.
All right.
Leave it on there.
Thanks, Jude. Any questions of staff? Go ahead, Mr. Green.
Yeah, one question regarding the location of the bike shed. Is there planning ordinance requirements that would preclude it from being back near the trash enclosure instead of out front?
Offhand, I'm not aware of any. I'm gonna just take a look at 1752 here and see, let's see here.
I mean, I see the functionality of that location, but I didn't know if that was driven by, a zoning requirement, or if that was just basically driven by function.
So the design standards of Chapter 1752-040, which are our bike parking standards, Section C2, bicycle parking areas shall be clearly marked or visible from on-site buildings or the street. If a bicycle parking area is not plainly visible from the street or main building entrance, a sign shall be posted indicating the location of the bicycle parking area. So that's the kind of stipulation that I would imagine pushed the applicant to making it visible from the street.
Yeah, I mean, if the board wishes to require it to be removed to the rear, we have had that in past application where there is pretty clear signage right in the front that lets people know.
Right, it would be visible, depending on where it's located, but assuming it was located toward 7th, it would be visible from 7th, you might say. So, yeah. Okay.
So if the imaginary lot line is drawn and this is on the Sarah Hughes side, how is the design and the materials, anything change because of that?
No, this is a building code issue. I mean, we didn't really even need to put that condition of approval in there. It's just more of closing the loop. It's one of those where the building code, when you have a line, imaginary line, they just go to a different part of the building
Yeah.
code. This is still all one
Still
subject
one
site and
application.
tax lot.
Okay,
yeah.
that's why I want to make sure.
I noticed that you do not spell out like whether it's got to be concrete siding or wood
For the accessory structures,
for this new building.
there is a condition that it is cedar or wood or
Cedar.
composite siding.
Okay, I was
That's your
just thinking
standard.
about the firewall type requirement between the two buildings being so close, the applicability of us.
Cedar's okay.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the applicant is looking for composite siding, which is a permitted
The firewall
material.
construction is behind the siding, so it doesn't have to be like a fire-rated siding.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, any other questions of staff?
I guess one, and I don't know if this is staff or applicant or both, but the condition 6, the typical 4 to 6 inch reveal on the siding. I think the Sarah Hughes House has a wider reveal on the siding.
It does, I think that it's more of a Queen Anne vernacular, and this is more of a Foursquare. So in a sense, I think we saw this as a new construction, not necessarily as an addition to the Sarah Hughes House. So being a Foursquare, you're more likely to be 4 to 6 inch reveal where, and it also helps to differentiate it. So I think by choosing the Foursquare design, you're kind of looking what a Foursquare siding reveal would be.
Okay.
All right, very good. If no more staff questions, we'll bring out the applicant.
Good evening, Chair Powell and board members. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and Vice. Congratulations.
If you'll start with your name and city of residence,
I
please.
forgot to say my name, Trevor Tyree, Milwaukee.
Tony Uzubanam, Westland.
Very good. Okay, what have you got for us?
Well, it looks like we were hopefully able to knock out all of the requirements that you guys were looking for before, and we're still able to keep the units functional and livable without shrinking it and being too small. I believe that we succeeded in doing that, and it's still going to be a functional, beautiful building. And yes, for the bike shed, the cedar look is probably kind of something we were looking forward to, so it didn't match the existing Sarah Hughes building, so it didn't take away from that. So that's kind of why we were going that cedar fence look versus any other kind of siding for the bike shed. And then as for the trash enclosure, we were shooting for keeping it as far close to that property line so it can be hidden from the tree on 7th Street. That's kind of the goal, because if we have to push that too far forward, you're definitely going to see that when you're driving down 7th Street. And keeping it back will definitely help hide that structure for the most part. And I believe that covers the basis of everything. Got rid of the posts. We're going to cantilever the patio cover. I think it looks good. Comment on the windows if you did have a question. One of them is a fixed window and the other one is a casement window. And if it is a requirement, we could definitely get the windows that look like a single hung window to have that divider, if that's a requirement.
Great. I think it would be from a design standpoint, I think it would be a much better look, for sure.
Perfect. We'll definitely update that.
I have a question, a couple questions actually, about the bike shed, the trash bin container. The roofing material, you want to use a metal roofing material? Is that what I understand?
Correct. That would be for the trash enclosure in the rear.
And not the bike?
I think it says.
Or
metal
for
roofing
both?
on it.
Oh, that's for both, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going to use a painted or a colored metal as opposed to a bright metal?
Yes, definitely wouldn't be a galvanized finish. It could be a painted surface to make it look nicer versus stand out and reflect.
And then the same question on the siding. Is that going to be a painted siding or a cedar, painted cedar to match one of the other buildings?
So for the trash enclosure, we can make that any color, because we're going to use hardy lap siding, which is cement siding for the trash enclosure. And we can use any color that ideally we would want to match what the new construction we're doing versus the original Sarah Hughes building. And then for the bike shed in the front, we can do more of a natural stained look versus trying to take away and do some kind of cherry red or something like that. Just keep it kind of natural, essentially. Does that answer your question?
It does. I'm sorry. I'm just thinking out and trying to picture that in my mind there. But it answers my question. Thank you. Any questions?
I just wanted to say, thank you so much for taking everything that we said into consideration. And it seems like you did a really great and thorough job of addressing pretty much everything that we had concerns about. And I know that's not an easy thing to do, to go back to the drawing board. And I thought you guys did a really great job of addressing everything that we discussed last meeting. I guess I would just mirror a little bit of a concern with the paint choice on the bike shed. I think the trash enclosure seems great. No problem there. And the only thing is that the bike shed is sitting street facing on the existing house. And so to me, that's sort of, I totally understand what you're saying about the natural finish. Personally, I might like to see it painted at least in the same trim color as the Sarah Hughes House, to just kind of not have it stand out as much, you know?
Blend it in.
But that's just, I think, a personal preference, and that would, I think, would be a really easy thing to do as well, so.
I have a comment. Going back and looking at the original design of the where the doors into the on the front, they were spread out, kind of balanced, and now you moved them all three together. Is there any reason why with the redesign they couldn't be split apart like they were originally?
So the reason for essentially bringing those tight was because we shrunk the building down quite a bit. The flow would have been messed up going into that structure, to where it'd be very tricky to find a place to put a bed, a couch, and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of shrunk it down to allow to still have a good flow into those studios.
It just had, it had more balance to it when there were split, in the original design.
Thanks. Any other questions? Go ahead.
I just guess I need a clarification. The trash enclosure, did you say that's going to be sided with hardy plank and the bike shed is going to be cedar?
Correct.
Okay. Because I was thinking on the drawing, it showed them the same, but okay, that clarifies that. So regarding the location of the bike shed, I guess I would rather not see that in that location right between the street and the historic resource. What are your thoughts about of locating it back by the trash enclosure? Obviously, not as handy back there functionally, but I think visually more preferable in my mind. And obviously it's a requirement, so it has to be there. I guess I don't know how often they get used. So what are your thoughts in that regard?
Let me chime in. So I agree with you on what you were saying visually, especially if it's like a different color, and what you were saying, like to paint it to blend it in with the Sarah Hughes House. The actual idea was to, after the new construction, to actually do a little bit of a touch up to the original Sarah Hughes House to sort of, make it look nicer. Basically painting and a little touch-ups, nothing major. And there's a vinyl window that needs to be replaced as well. So the entire windows in the building of the Sarah Hughes will be replaced with new windows. But in regards to the bike, we were just talking about it earlier. We could just move it to the back of the building where the dumpster is. And that way it's like you said, it's not handy if someone wants to go on a bike ride, but if that makes it fit what is required for the historic to visually, then that's no problem at all. And also for the garbage bin, we're thinking about hardy plank. But again, I was just thinking because if you're looking from 7th Street towards the back over there, there's like some tree that is obscuring the view, but we could paint it to be like green or something, just to make it disappear back there because it's just vegetation. So we could paint the structures to just disappear into the background. So it's not like too visible anyway. So, but it's a good idea. Moving the bike rack to the back, and then maybe a few feet apart from the garbage enclosure.
So does that fit code?
Yeah, through 1752 requires bike parking to be at the front, but we have allowed it with signage to the rear. So most likely you'll see either a signage on the ground or just on the side of the new building as you walk down that says, bike parking this way. And that'll meet the standard. So Jude has put together a condition that I think I'm always about more options, is allowing it to stay on, what street are we on? JQ? JQ Adams with, as modified, maybe painted, or relocated to the rear next to the trash enclosure. So both options can stay there, and then we can continue that through. So you can decide as you get into the details, because maybe you can't put it back there because the geometry doesn't work, and then you'll have a default to go back in the front.
I concur with that thinking.
And as far as proximity to the property line, I don't have any problem with that. I don't think it's functional otherwise. I think it needs to be pushed back. One aspect regarding the trash enclosure, you're going to wheel your carts out, and actually I think I mentioned when we looked at this before, just a suggestion that still occurs to me is the fact that the grade, the elevation of the grade appears to be higher from the site visit, and it shows on the elevation drawings as well. It looks like about 1.5 feet higher, but there's no accommodation on the site plan showing how you're going to accommodate that change in grade. If you're rolling carts out, essentially it's got to be ramps.
Because there's a mention
And
of a
so
berm.
you've got a scenario there where the trash enclosure is relatively close to the entrance of Unit 3, but your entrance to Unit 3 is 1.5 feet below existing grade, approximately, it looks like. So this is not necessarily our purview, because it's not something you would see, but if the floor elevation for Unit 3 were raised a foot and you just used 8-foot ceilings in that unit, you would be able to ramp all the way out towards JQ Adams Street, and also accomplish some drainage. Otherwise, you're going to have a ramp down pretty abrupt from the trash enclosure and be down to that sidewalk elevation in the front of Unit 3. So you're going to collect water in there. I mean, you're going to have, that would be a job site scenario of stormwater collection there, but functionally rolling your carts out too. So it's just a consideration that you might consider.
So that's a great consideration. As it is right now, there's a gradual slope that goes from the street on JQ Adams all the way to the back lot. The drop in the elevation is just behind the Sarah Hughes House. So it doesn't really affect the other side where like the current structure, the garage is. It's just a gradual incline. So if the garbage enclosure is back there, you can easily still, with the pavers, just go straight all the way down without having to drop in elevation. The drop is literally just behind the Sarah Hughes place. It's weird. I mean, it's been like that for over 100 years, but it's just a drop off about 16, 18 inches.
Okay.
And it's just behind the house. And every other thing else is just a slope, gradual slope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking of, with the entrance to Unit 3 being towards the rear there, if the floor elevation is all the same, essentially near sidewalk elevation, then it appears to be about 1.5 feet change in elevation to your trash enclosure. So you would have a pretty abrupt, not unworkable, but it'll be for sure catching water and in that area and so forth. So that would need to be accommodated, but it'd be a fairly abrupt ramp to go around the corner there and be down to that point. So just I guess a point of consideration. And I had one question regarding, I see now that the building's been moved forward, there's no longer the firewall requirement on the back wall, but you're still showing the full window on the 2 levels on the back, and I'm not a big fan of the full windows. Could those not be just regular windows into the living room of Unit 3 and Unit 6?
Are you talking about on the rear of the building?
The rear of the building, yeah, there were 2 full windows and 2 functional windows.
Oh, there you go. Page 10.
Keep going up. There you go. So.
We don't have the elevation drawings for it.
Elevation, I just have the.
Okay, let me grab the elevation for everybody.
And maybe that's planned to be changed, just hasn't gone away, I don't know, but.
You're proposing that they all be the bigger windows?
So I'm scrolling through.
Page 7.
So in our packet, it's page 10.
Yeah.
Is this one right here?
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
so you're suggesting
I'm
So-
zoom
four
in.
of the
Yeah, those are functional windows and those are full windows.
Because there was a firewall there, right?
But it's no
So-
longer a firewall
Right.
now that it's 5 feet from the property line.
So
Yeah.
you think they should all be, there should be 4 functional
I
windows
think
instead
they
of
should be
2?
functional windows and not full windows.
And they look, and I don't know if this is just a CAD thing, but they look to be the fixed sash. So would you want those to be 1/1?
Yeah, and I think the
Casement.
purpose was just to simply accommodate the amount of glazing that wall surface required. I think that's why those originally appeared there, but
That's correct.
Yes, originally that was the reason why we had those faux windows there, was so we didn't have such a blank wall to meet
Right.
the code. But yes, I do see what you're saying here. Those could be changed into functional windows, because it looks like those windows go into the living room, center of the living room of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
units.
And they wouldn't necessarily have to be in that exact location if there's a better place, in my view, in the room for placement, but just a functional window from the living room will get more natural light in and improve the appearance in my mind instead of the full windows.
Definitely, I agree. And then with those back there as well, those are casement windows for egress. So those we can also make to look like a single hung window.
Yeah.
Great.
And just to verify that the false windows, the dimensions can stay the same and they can be fixed?
Yeah.
Or do they need to also be?
Yeah, they could remain the same now. They may choose to make them a little larger if they're,
Right.
want a little more light in or
Or
whatever.
maybe a square kind of?
Still the 1/1, I guess,
So
style.
wouldn't the suggestion be to make them match across the wall
Matching
surface?
would look better.
That would be ideal, yeah.
Okay. Just to clarify, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, I think consistency is good, and that would be a nice design, keeping the same size. And quite frankly, if it's looking into a living room, I think the more light would be great.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see window size callouts on those, but it looks like they might be 3 by 5 if they're 305. That a regular 305 single hung does meet egress requirements, so it wouldn't have to be like a casement window with a mole bar. It could be just a regular 305 single hung, and then the living room windows could be the same.
Yeah, the call out for those egress windows are a 3040.
304,
Window.
okay. It would need to be a casement then to get egress. Yeah.
Okay? Any other?
I'm going to go back to,
I had a question on the porch. After removing the poles for the porch, it's kind of a freestanding roof, and it looks a lot like your other two on the Sarah Hughes house. To me, it looks a little, it seems a little unfinished to me. It seems like maybe corbels. Then the question is, if you have corbelling under there, is that going to be the same problem we had with the posts? It is? Okay. Ignore that. But I mean, it's fine because it, matches along the whole length, but it just seemed a little unfinished to me, and it looked a little awkward, and I thought corbelling would be corbels would be good, but if it's going to be a problem, then I withdraw my concern.
Threading the needle.
I will say from like a historic appropriateness
Start here.
viewpoint, I do feel like minimizing the entryway by taking out the posts visually like gives the historic home more interest. It distracts less, I guess. The bigger porch with the posts, like I feel like your eye just went to the new build, and now it feels like, even though it might look a little more awkward, it feels like it's it's minimized the look of the new build and keeps your
Yeah.
eye to the historic building. So
I think another thing to keep into consideration too is that, especially when we're talking about the bike parking, is that we're leaving the exit of the Dairy Queen drive-through into this area. So if we look at it as a unique individual property by itself, it's one thing. But looking at it in consideration of what other properties are around it, it loses some significance of very specific parameters. Because we do have heavy, commercialized property right 20 feet away. So it's not as pertinent sometimes.
Okay.
Jude has some recommended conditions of approval revisions, so I'll pass it over and I'll scroll down to 7.
Okay, so let's see here. The notes that I've taken based off of your discussion here, the front JQ Adams and rear southeast lot line elevation windows should be 1/1, or casement that appears to be 1/1 for egress purposes. Casement window divider shall be externally applied.
That can be D.
Yeah, that will be D on condition 7 there. Condition E, or E on condition 7 will be applicant shall replace the faux windows on the southeastern elevation with real 1/1. Position may change to suit.
Design.
Yeah. And then for conditions 9 and 10, the bicycle parking shed may be relocated from the corner side JQ Adams frontage to the area next to the trash enclosure. If so relocated, the applicant shall add a sign to the entrance of the Sarah Hughes House indicating the location of the bike parking. Cedar siding may be painted to reflect the trim color of the Sarah Hughes House, or green to disappear from view. The shed roof on the trash enclosure and bike parking sheds shall be painted. Trash enclosure will use hardy board lap siding. Is there a specificity on the painting of the metal roofs on those structures?
It should match the colors of the existing roofs.
That's going to be problematic, I would say, because you've got a limited range of colors, sometimes metal roofing.
If it's the bike shed on the street facing part of the Sarah Hughes, I would say probably the same as the trim color.
The slope is away from public view in each case. I mean, you'll hardly see, even if the bike shed stays where it's at, you'll really hardly see that roof because it slopes away from the street. And of course, the other one slopes towards the property line back behind. So roof colors, I mean,
My only concern was a bright
Just
metal.
Reflective.
I would
Yeah.
rather have something more muted, even more natural, or a darker.
I have a question for staff then. Is it even in our purview to be talking about colors, or is this a roofing issue? Because there's two different questions.
I think colors for new construction is you get one bite of the apple, and then once they get the C of O, you don't. So, I would say like you're the midwife birthing the best option, and what I'm hearing is, painted on, non-galvanized.
We don't want galvanized.
I would just say like a non-reflective
So-
surface.
Yeah, a
it
painted
could be
non-reflective
just-
surface to match the existing, not just the Sarah, in the front it's the Sarah Hughes. In the
Right.
back, it's either the Sarah Hughes or the new construction.
Right.
Does that work?
The reason to put the bike shed in the back, I don't like having metal roofs right next to a historic house. And so putting all of that behind, to me, makes a heck of a lot of sense.
It's usually preferable in my mind, yeah.
I also wanted to note that accessory structures, according to HRB policy 10, I believe, metal roofs can't be approved by staff. So if they are, they are approvable by the Historic Review Board, but questions of color come up all the time, and so it's.
Yeah, that was my question, is because we're talking about roofing material, which we, that's a color context versus paint, so it's,
And colors are specific, colors of those materials are specified in the policy, so
Yeah. Is this like a powder coated, or are we looking at a specific material to ensure that it's a
I imagine that
galvanized?
we're talking about a specific material. that
Yeah, I mean,
would
if it's
be-
a powder coated, painted metal, then you're not going to ever have it be galvanized. It'll be
Yeah.
a paint color.
Yeah.
I think we can call that out to say that
Yeah.
it needs to be non-galvanized, I think that we can resolve it by not calling out specifically what colors it should be,
I
but by
agree.
calling out what it shouldn't be
Yeah.
instead.
So a
Maybe a condition that just says
powder-coated,
painted metal roofing, not bright metal or not reflective metal.
right?
Something along those lines so that we don't
Does
restrict.
that make sense?
Right.
Yeah.
So what I've written here is shed roof on the trash enclosure and bike parking sheds shall be painted or treated so as to be non-reflective.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quick question. Would it be a lot easier if we just did the roofs, composite shingles roofing versus metal?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll just change it to shingle roofing. And then as far as roofing look, match the Sarah Hughes
Yeah,
color.
I think it just comes down to a question moving forward where there's an approval on something that we know we don't want, and then it opens up a Pandora's box, whereas doing the composite roofing would just be a very standard, and it would match the building, obviously.
Basically, don't have it stand out too much,
Yeah.
right? To distract from the historic home. So
I see the merit. Well,
Definitely, easy solution. We got it.
The metal roofing is fantastic. I see the
Yeah,
it's
slap
a
it on.
fantastic idea, and it's gonna make it lasting, but there's other things at play.
Well, it does serve a very good function on a low slope like that.
100%.
If they are going to use asphalt shingles, you have to use ice and water shield. It's putting an extra burden on the applicant to
Absolutely.
demand that.
if it were me, I would make it white, powder-coated roofing material to match the trim of the Sarah Hughes House if it's in the front. If it's in the back, honestly, I don't see there being much of a discussion here.
Yeah.
Because it's not even going to be visual,
Thank you,
you know?
yeah.
But if it's in the front, make it not stand out too far from the historic structure.
So we're making it tough for Jude.
Sorry.
Very smart.
So Jude, that's non-reflective,
Yeah.
white powder coat, no.
I think we're keeping all the options open for,
Good thing he's got.
these are always the things that you get down to the end and you're like, oh, that didn't work. And then what are other options? And we're like, oh, we painted ourselves in a corner, which we don't want to do.
Should be made
One
out of
second.
Sponges.
Jude is typing up and we'll read the revised
Should
condition
just have a wooden
momentarily.
roof and no other option.
But again, I wanted to say thank you for, just
Absolutely.
going back and making these changes. It's
Absolutely.
clear that you guys did a lot of work, and you listened really well last time to the things that we said, and just really appreciate you being flexible.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so back to the bike parking shed and trash enclosure. The bike parking shed may be relocated from the corner side JQ Adams frontage to the area next to the trash enclosure. If so relocated, the applicant shall add a sign to the entrance of the Sarah Hughes House indicating the location of bike parking. Cedar siding may be painted to reflect the trim color of the Sarah Hughes House, or green to disappear from view. If the bicycle parking shed fronts on JQ Adams Street, the roof shall be painted to match the trim on the Sarah Hughes House. The shed roof on the trash enclosure and bike parking sheds, if located toward the back, shall be painted or treated so as to be non-reflective, or material change to comply with the HRB policy, which would be the asphalt shingles instead. And the trash closure shall use hardy board lap siding.
Great.
Perfect. Thank
That
you.
gives you a lot of options.
Yeah.
We're decisive.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant? All right, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We will, looks like you both filled out comment forms. Is that something you wanted to discuss further than the application, or?
No, we made them fill them out.
Huh?
We made them fill them
You
out.
made him do it? All right. Yeah, sorry about that. I had a question. Do we want to, we did have a person submit an against, if you will, a letter. Do we need to address that?
You mean at the previous?
No, I don't know, was it in this it was in this packet, so I don't know if it was current or if it was.
Oh, it was just a continuation of the comment from the last
That was
meeting.
from the last one?
Right.
Okay,
It was,
I think we.
already expressed.
We
at the
addressed
last
that.
party
Okay,
in the
great,
record.
thank you. All right, then we'll close the, well, let's see, yeah, we'll close the public hearing and bring it up to the commission to discuss.
I'm personally happy with what we've resolved, and I would like to move to a vote.
Any
I
other
agree with
comments?
that. Yeah, no, I mean, I think we've pretty well hashed out what's
Yep.
to be said.
All right, is that a,
Okay, I
Are
move
we,
that,
well, I'm sorry, real quick. So we are in agreement with what we've discussed about window sizing and placement is, not to bring up windows, I hate doing it, but
but you did.
I know, so but when we are moving forward from this point, we all feel confident that we've addressed the back of the house and everything like that. We're good.
I think so.
I think so.
we've addressed
Okay.
all of
I think
the unusual
Yep.
windows
Okay.
that were there. I think we addressed all
Yep.
those, so.
Perfect.
I think we're good.
Okay, I move to approve HR 25014 and HR 25013-014 staff report. Is there anything else that I?
HR 2513 was the demolition of the garage, which was approved at the last meeting. So you're just approving the HR 2514 as revised.
As amended by comment.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a
I
second?
second that.
And we have a second. All right, we call the roll, please.
Okay, Board Member Green?
Aye.
Board Member Fulkerson?
Aye.
Board Member Lawrence?
Aye.
Board Member Edgar?
Aye.
Chair Powell?
Aye,
Motion carries.
very good. Thank you very much. We look forward to,
Thank you
to
for
seeing the
your
building.
efforts and look forward to it.
Thank you again.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, on to discussion of what compatible change.
One moment, I need to,
Can we take a 1-minute recess?
Five.
We can take a 1-minute, sure.
Yeah,
Let's
fine.
take a 5-minute recess.
I didn't know how fast I could go.
Okay. If you want to announce the.
Oh, yeah. We are in discussing compatible change, new construction review in historic districts, and the HRB policy 17.40 code review.
All right. Tonight, I just want to go over some of the updates from the last time we met, and then I have two bigger picture questions, and I thought it'd be good for the board to have that conversation. We've kind of been diving in the weeds a little bit, and I want to pull us all up for a second and have a larger conversation. Just to recap, Compatible Change project, which we've been working on for over a year, is looking at new triggers for review of new construction on non-designated resources in McLaughlin. That is really coordinated through changes to our municipal code, where we actually will have code language that will change those triggers, as well as the creation of a new policy, HRB 13, that will direct a clear and objective path for folks who want to have we call it type 1 or administrative review through the building permit process. They do not have to go through a public hearing. Just to recap what we did in November, there was a discussion about dormers, how big, the size, location, ridge. The board gave direction to staff that if the dormer is located at the ridge line, you only get one. If the dormer is below the ridge line and meets the setback requirements, you can have one on each side. So that has been added to the HRB policy 13. The other piece, I worked with Carrie Richter, our city attorney, and took the October red line draft, which is on purpose, was just taking the policy memo and just showing it where it would work. And we put together a codified approach to implementing the policy. And so that is what you'll see in the attached agenda. It really just took kind of looser, the memo policy, and turned it into a more specific codified, which is if you meet this, you go through this process. If you don't do this, you go through this process. So you'll see that laid out. I have a red line copy on the agenda. I have the clean copy attached, and then I also reattached the October version, just so you can kind of see how things changed. Nothing, no policy has changed. It's just rearranging and providing better clarity. The one thing I do want to highlight for the board, there's 3 places in our municipal code that talks about archaeological monitoring and reaching out to tribes of interest in Oregon City and the State Historic Preservation Office. That's a completeness item. We don't have our own archaeological code. We rely on the state archaeological ORSs. There's some new requirements through Goal 5, which is our historic resources goal, that looks at coordinating with tribes throughout Oregon to make sure that they are involved early on in the process. The OARs, the Oregon Administrative Rules, were just passed in December that updated that. We're going to be getting clear direction from SHPO soon, but we'll be making those changes to all 3 chapters at the same time. Oregon City, for the last 15 years, we've already do reach out to 5 tribal governments of interest and the State Historic Preservation Office at the pre-application conference level. So we actually are doing more than I think what the OARs are looking at, but we want to make sure we're aligning. So if we come back, we'll probably come back sometime this next year through the legislative process that just reconciles what we do today, what the new OARs say, and how do we need to provide any changes to our code. But I believe we are meeting either above and beyond or absolutely the intent of what has just been passed. So none of that will be changed as part of this process, because we will make changes to the subdivision, site plan design review, and historic chapters at the same time, and they will all have the same language. The 2 questions I'd like to ask tonight, kind of as we zoom back out and look at HRB policy 13.7 and changes to 1740. What is the Historic Review Board trying to encourage or discourage with our HRB policy 13? And do you think HRB policy 13 provides a middle ground approach so there's neither too specific nor too broad? So we're trying to land the plane a little bit of Goldilocks approach. I think policy 13 will fail if we get too specific and nobody actually wants to build the design we decided, because it's, nor do we want to be so flexible that people build things we weren't anticipating. And I know it's a hard answer, but I'd like to have that conversation tonight just to make sure as we move forward in our presentation to the City Commission in the legislative process, everybody feels comfortable and can articulate why they think this is the balance. So I'd like to have that conversation. Right now, we have a spring HRB work session we're trying to schedule with the City Commission, where we kind of present back the work we've done this fall and winter, and then ask to move forward the legislative process. We did that this summer on the concept, and now we're presenting the work we've done. Once we get direction from the City Commission, then staff will start the legislative process, which runs through the Planning Commission, but we will involve you. I don't know the date yet, but I do know, I'd like 2 HRB members to accompany me to the work session. We can't have the whole board because then it's a joint work session, so it would be staff and 2 HRB members would present the work we've done so far. So kind of sending it back to the board. Is there anything we want to continue working on? And then maybe this larger conversation of as we strike the right balance for HRB policy 13.
Okay,
And I'm happy to click on any of the agenda items if you want to have them online.
so why don't we go in the order you brought those up in? That is, what are we trying to get out of 13? What are we trying to do, positive way?
Yeah.
And then on the other side, what are we trying not to do? So I guess that's a first start. Comments?
Well, I gave some consideration to the 2 questions there, and I kind of came up with that what we're trying to encourage is the development of small affordable dwelling units with the goal of more affordable housing. And I guess maybe a subset of that is particularly in response to the open house they had in the McLaughlin district, and I guess some of the response that kind of stood out, that there was a fair amount of interest in having approval for, you might say, smaller dwellings like that. So I think it's kind of a response, in my mind, to that public outreach. And as far as the second question, does it provide a middle ground approach without being too specific or too broad? I think we're pretty close. I have a couple items in mind, and you probably know what they are. But conversely, we want to discourage unpermitted housing development by streamlining and simplifying the process of doing it, you might say, within the criteria, within the permitted process. So, if that,
Yeah, I I feel as though we're trying to make it so that people can have a path forward that is a clear and defined statement that they don't have to have restrictions to building. And I think that we're all likely on the same page, that what we want to do is have a aesthetic that is correct for the neighborhoods and still allow type 2 housing to move forward without having to come between barriers to moving forward. And I think that the barriers to moving forward is the real problem right now, that we have to say, hey, it would be great to have all of the choices and all of the insight and all of the opportunity to say yes or no on certain things, but we've really worked through a lot of process to say these things qualify for a staff level decision moving forward.
Which is easier for them as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that only the outlaying questions are the ones that have to come before us. And I feel like over the last 6, 7, 8, 8 months now, we've really worked through a lot of that process.
Okay.
I guess the only thing that I would add, obviously, construction and housing right now is very expensive. And so the purpose of doing this is to provide more affordable housing for people, but also allow the people that already live in these districts that take preservation, seriously, to have a comfortable design for them as well. So to limit sort of a public backlash of any new construction, because we know that to be kind of a contentious thing as well in historic districts. So yeah, that would just add that it's a comfort level for existing neighbors as well, so.
We're one piece, I think, of two crucial pieces, and maybe the smaller of the two pieces of, you might say, incentivizing people following the permitted path. The other one is SDCs. Are the SDCs for these, I assume, are the same as any ADU, the same?
Yeah, and the city commission is looking at further tiering all their SDCs, and as we move forward in Oregon City and our housing production strategy, that's one option we'll be doing. So things like parks and sewer and water, some are tiered right now, but I think we're looking for a much more tiered approach for sizing, so that those SDCs will be fleshed out, but this will be a dwelling unit, so it could be either an accessory dwelling unit or it could be, in a sense, a detached duplex, depending on what person wanted to move forward. But yeah, the idea is to move forward on a tiered approach to SDCs.
So
That's a great
we
point
can
to
only
bring up.
attack the design part of it, not the fee part, but I mean,
Of
that's
course.
a big part.
But at the same time, that feedback from the board is measurable against the issue with SDCs right now, so.
As somebody sitting on a board trying to solve the problem of affordable housing, which I am on, the SDC fees I spent some time talking to the Clackamas County people, and how we allocate money for affordable housing, and then so much of the money that's allocated goes to SDC fees, is a sore point. And for us to tier them, I brought them up, what was said by the commission, and the guy's eyes lit up about that big. And we were talking about it because of excitement of tiered base SDCs.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for that. I mean, when I was on the planning commission, we worked through those many years ago and gave the developers an opportunity to get decreased fees on SDCs if they met certain design requirements that we wanted. And that's why we don't have a lot of snout-nosed houses in Oregon City in new development anymore, because they don't have to do that anymore. And it worked.
Yeah, I think this is where the city commission, they have the purse string, so they're going to pursue and work with, all legal and technical guidance. But, do track this over the next couple of years. And I always encourage it as an individual, make any comment. And if at some point it makes sense for the board to chime in, but individually definitely do track it. And keep in mind, how the tiering affects these little small 550 square foot dwelling units, which I don't have the answer right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see as the commission goes forward, going into that tier.
It's interesting to see how the SDCs are affected at a higher level, and then to see the trickle down to what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And keep it in context of these smaller units when
Yeah.
there's a lot.
It will be interesting.
I just see some designs in small houses, tiny houses, or normal living type situations, and they can be very attractive.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's it should not detract, and I think that there's plenty of opportunity in that area.
And I agree with everything that's been said regarding the encouraging and discouraging. I think I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
I think we've gone through this enough that we all agree that that's what we'll be talking about when we're asked. And the question too, whether it's a middle ground approach, I don't think it's too specific. I think with your help that we've been able to get it to where it's not so specific, but yet specific enough that if it has to come to us, as a board, I would say it's going to have to be way different, right? Something different or above and beyond what's in the plan. And I think what's in the plan now is if people follow this, I think they should be able to get through it quickly and be able to get it approved at staff level.
Absolutely. I think we worked really hard and amazing help from other resources to come up with a plan that made sense and was very sensible so that we can push this back onto staff level decisions.
I know Board Member Green has extra comments, so I don't know if it's
Yeah,
the time
it's
to
dormers.
bring those in.
You know, we kind of struck in our November meeting a compromise, and my further, and I was going to look up that email I sent to you, Christina, and I can't get it on my phone, and I forgot, but I actually did a count, and what, 2/3 or 3/4 of the shed dormers in McLaughlin actually do go to the ridge.
Yeah.
So I would
Yes.
still be an advocate of simplifying that requirement and just actually in a couple regards. Now, the language, the draft language we have now says gable or shed dormers are permitted on the second floor if proposed. So there's the first thing that comes up in my mind. Does there need to be a second floor for dormers to be approved? In my mind, it shouldn't matter. You look at it from the outside, if dormers are okay, I mean, a person may have a vaulted roof and just want dormers for natural
Just
light
remove second
or
floor.
architectural look, or maybe a couple gable dormers or whatever like that.
Right.
So I don't think that we would need a qualifier that there would be a second floor for the dormers. But based on the predominance of shed dormers that go to the ridge in the neighborhood, and the fact that one thing I discovered when we were kind of driving around, my wife and I, making a count, if they go fairly close to the ridge, and we said 1 foot from the ridge, and that would need to be defined. Are we talking 1 foot down the slope or 1 foot vertically? So that's another point of distinction. But when they're that close, you often have to kind of stop and take a little closer look because it's a pretty insignificant difference. So based on that observation and the fact, I kind of poisoned the well last time with my little sketch that, and you guys didn't see it, but with that, you never see a building that way. You can almost never see both sides at the same time. The only way you can see that is if you are looking straight on, let's say at the gable end, and you're elevated high enough to see it. So you never really see that distinction. So in my mind, I think it would be better to simplify it and just, if we agree that dormers are appropriate as long as they don't go above the ridge, set back 1 foot from the wall below, and don't total more than 50%. In my mind, that would be simpler and appropriate. Otherwise, we will have to make some distinctions. Are we talking a slope measurement or a vertical measurement?
So just real quickly, and this can be revised, the way it's written, the second floor makes sense.
Yeah.
So right now it's written as, it's 1 foot in from the wall, so
Right.
it's the sides here, right?
Right.
And then it's 1 foot down from the peak and 3 feet in from the edge. So those are just metrics, but they can be, so if you're looking at, that can be described, those, that 3D point.
But we're talking about eliminating that 1 foot down from the ridge.
And that's it, right? That we're cool with the 1 foot in from the wall and 3 feet in from the,
We're just saying that it can go up to
It's
the
just the
ridge.
ridge.
Yeah,
line.
I would, in my mind, eliminate the distinction. It can go to the ridge if you have 1, but it has to be down a foot if you have 2. In my mind, because actually, I mentioned in that email that I saw maybe 6 to 8 doubles, and I didn't actually count those, but some of them went to the ridge. So it's not by any means unprecedented, but you have to look at it from both sides to even make that distinction. So it just seems to me, it just simplifies it if we don't say that if you have 2 dormers, they have to be down a foot and so forth, just dormers. There's actually another little distinction.
based on your,
We tend to look at verbiage and we know what we're envisioning, but we have to think of somebody that doesn't, and then come and read, what are they saying? The 3 feet from the edge of the roof plane, I think from the edge of the gable edge. I don't know if there would be a wording distinction there, but I think we were all talking the same thing, that the gable walls need to be set back a foot from the wall below them, they're parallel to. The total of the dormers cannot be more than half the wall below it. But I think the simplifying it, just say that no dormers can exceed the main ridge line. So either a gable dormer could go up to the ridge line or a shed dormer could go up to the ridge line, and would simplify it. And, and then we don't have to clarify, are we talking 1 foot vertically or 1 foot down the slope, and more complications that way, if that, makes sense, so.
I hear you on the ridge line and I have no pushback there. The one thing that I would just comment on is the 2 dormers. And I'm going to kick it back to you. So based on your reconnaissance survey of it, do you think that being able to see it visually, both dormers visually, is, you said it's not really, it's not unprecedented, right? But do you think that this is a case-by-case situation where somebody, if they're building new, you might be able to see it, both of the dormers, depending on the site and the house and the land and this, all the different factors?
Very rarely. And if you think about it, and actually you commented about it last time, I'm sorry, this is printed. But here, you look at this thing and you see it clearly going to the ridge there.
Right.
If let's say you're traveling down the street, as you get closer, it becomes more difficult to get that distinction, but you can't even see that there's
Right.
a dormer on the other side until you get to the other side. So the only way that you would be able to see 2 dormers, whether they went to the ridge or not, would not only be directly in front, where you're right looking at, but you would also have to be high enough so that the ridge does not obscure it, because if you could take that and twist it around, you can't see that intersection if you're below that point.
Right.
So you literally have to be up at ridge height or almost at ridge height, and then looking straight on to actually see that happen.
Right.
You know, so in real life, you just never see it. When you drive by, you see it like this, when you get by or you walk by, you see it like that. And, you know, yeah.
Well, I'd like to say thank you for taking the time.
Right.
To go out and do some real world
Do the counts,
research to
right.
further help simplify
Oh.
this process.
So, quick question. Having that 1 foot back from the wall is really the thing that reduces the massing with a double dormer, is that what we're saying?
I think so. I think so, yeah.
So,
Well-
right, go ahead. So a revised version of everything you see in yellow is really reducing it to one bullet point, which is great because I
Yeah.
was formatting,
Yeah,
is 50%. You can be at the ridge line 1 foot back from the wall. No direction on setback in from the edges. Just, you have to be 1 foot in, so there is a roof, right? You're set into the roof. You can go to the ridge line, no more than 50% per side can be a dormer.
right. No-
And so those are the enough 3 limiting things that if you have if you have a shed dormer on both sides, the massing is mitigated by those 3 things.
I would say so, yeah, yeah.
The 3 is the
Because
50%, the 1 foot back from the wall, and the, 3 feet
back
from the edge of the roof plane.
Gable.
okay.
Wait, oh, so you want to keep the 3 feet from the roof?
I think we should keep that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it can be ridge line, 3 feet from roof gable.
Yeah.
1 foot in.
1 foot from the wall
50%,
below.
50% would be
Yeah.
like, if someone was trying to just make the biggest version of the building they could, that's what they can do.
Yeah,
Well, and you know, most of the homes you probably looked at were all full-size homes, right? We're talking about much smaller things here, right? So,
So I think the
they are,
50%
but some of
itself
them are
is
small
limiting it.
homes.
you what?
Yeah,
I mean, the 50% itself limits it, right? And you're generally going to have your dormer on center-ish.
Generally.
Most of the dormers, I did not do a legitimate, I went out and looked at a whole bunch of them about where the dormers are. But a shed dormer is different than a gable dormer in how it sets, whereas a shed dormer could come out right out to a wall, to a bearing wall.
Well, if you go 1 foot
I
in,
would
I
rather
think
it
that's,
didn't, I think just.
that's how you reduce the massing, because I've
Yeah.
seen it where people try to take it out, and then the line goes straight up, and then it really
Yeah.
does create that bigger
And that's the
massing.
thing, we're talking about a much smaller footprint here than a whole full-size house.
Yeah.
So
Now
if you
there-
put 50% dormer on a 550 square foot roof, I mean, you know, I mean, it's going to be, and if you don't put it back in some way or drop it down, it's going to look like it's going to be more massing. And that's the thing I was worried about with a full dormer is the massing. Because on a small footprint like that, it could very well provide, you know, I guess I should just stick with massing. I mean, that was always my concern, and that's why I wanted to break it up and with the smaller dormers. And on a small building like that, on a 550 square foot or 600 square foot or whatever it is, I mean, you're not gonna, if you did 2, they don't even you know,
Right.
so they wouldn't,
Yeah.
so, you know,
right.
it's not that I want to make it reasonable for the person that's building it. It makes sense. But I just want to make sure, I'm much better visually than I am.
All right, so I have a revised version that allows a dormer on both sides as long as it's 50% or less of the wall length. It can be at or below the ridge line. It's 1 foot back from the wall
On the wall below,
and 3 foot from the gable roof edge.
yeah, Yeah.
Okay,
And
I can
then-
revise and turn those two bullets
Yeah,
into
two
one.
other distinctions we actually talked about last time. I think that was minimum of 312 roof pitch for shed dormers, and gable dormers would need to match the roof pitch of the
Yes.
main structure.
Okay, I didn't know if we had that. I listened back to the meeting, I didn't get to the direction, that's good. 312 roof pitch for,
Shed dormers,
so have it, we want only a 312. We don't want to go.
no, minimum of 312. It could be steeper, it probably wouldn't, but we don't want to see a real flat shed dormer. That would not
Yeah.
look appropriate.
Of main gable, okay. Okay, I can make that in the revised bullet point.
Yeah. The other, we talked about a little bit, but I would be an advocate of only 20% requirement for the glazing on the sidewall. We had a little bit of discussion on that last time. I'm okay with 30% on the front, but that little sample we drew up, I mentioned would not make the 25%
Okay.
without adding extra windows, and I don't know what the rest of you think about that, but
The sample you're looking at, that's on,
I was thinking,
We're looking at
November, we
this
kind
one.
of decided that 20% would be okay.
we're looking at that one, right? Where we were looking at the side.
Yeah, and of course, those are large buildings, but
Right.
initially I thought that 25% would be okay, but then when we did this little deal, I realized it doesn't make it. You would have to either add a window there, so you got two windows in there, or a window in the closet, or a window here.
So you're proposing 20%? Is that-
This would make 20%, but it would not make 25%,
Okay.
And I think, yeah.
30% facade,
30% on the
side
front, and I
elevation.
think that's pretty easy to achieve.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, because there's usually like a picture window or something in the
Yeah.
front.
Does that make sense? Yeah. I think you had actually mentioned that the time I wasn't there, that, an interior, it may goof up an interior layout if you require too many windows, and,
Yep.
That's
That's what we found tonight, is
Right, the two small ones.
exactly like trying to keep
Make
that
the flow
continuous
work.
flow work so that you didn't have a couch against the door.
All right, I can make that change.
And the other burr under my saddle,
I mean, since we're talking about it,
I would be fine with not refusing oval windows, and I did a little online study on that. In the entrance doors, we had a little discussion on that. And full disclosure, I said it before, I've got one in my own house, but what I...
Bias, we have bias.
What I discovered in little online research is that they certainly were appropriate near the turn of the century, particularly like Victorian and Queen Anne architecture and so forth. What crops up is that in some cases they're considered a 90s look.
Are we talking about semis?
I'm talking about just oval
Or
glass.
oval in
In the document there, it said no half-round windows or oval glass, and I'm on board with no half-round windows. That's not historically appropriate. But basically, it seems that the oval glass in entrance scores got a little overworked in the 90s, so it's taken on a 90s look, you might say. So the question in my mind is, was that architectural element sufficiently hijacked in the 90s that we should not have that as approved? Because historically, I think, particularly like with Queen Anne styles, Victorian and so forth, an oval window was appropriate.
So wouldn't that be a question for the board, though, that if we have it approved at a staff level? So,
Mike, please.
oh, very sorry. So wouldn't that be a question that we want to see as the board?
Well, that's the question. In other words, if the distinction is that with this Goal 13 as a type 1 application, they can't get, probably nobody's going to say, I'm going to go to the Historic Review Board so I can get an oval glass, you know. But I guess I would be on board for not specifying that they're not allowed. I would be fine with specifying the half-round windows are not allowed. What does that language read?
Right here.
Oh, I have it on, right on the screen if you have it. It's,
Yeah,
the exterior doors should be wood, fiberglass, or composite of several materials. Full light, half light, and bungalow style panel doors are recommended. And then I think what Board Member Green is saying is half circle glass panel doors are not allowed, and removing the oval glass is
Yeah, just
mentioned.
remove oval glass and just say half circle glass panel doors are not allowed.
Well, if I remember our discussion, I mean, I thought we pretty much determined it was, I thought it really wasn't appropriate but I don't remember specifically, architecturally, or if it was
I
because
just
of
did
the
a little
size
more
of the...
research afterwards, you know, and drove around and looked, and you can see them. The one picture I sent you is the law office there on Fifth Street, right between High and Washington, I think, you know, real nice Victorian home with a nice oval glass.
Yeah, I think the idea, this is a philosophical idea, and then we can figure out how it relates, but the idea is these small standalone accessory buildings are supposed to be simpler, and usually vernacular as designed were not high style Queen Anne, and so they didn't have higher style, and the oval is a higher style door design. So the recommendation is to do a not as higher style design. If you had a Queen Anne, then that makes more sense. And we use the term vernacular here with a capital V. It's basically a Western farmhouse, but it is a simpler design than a Queen Anne. So a Western farmhouse probably didn't have a oval. And that's kind of the philosophy. So now, how does that translate into what door you can put in?
Right.
Yeah. And I think, you know, when you're talking about like a stick Victorian or something like that, there are a lot of rounded elements to it, you know, like rounded hood molds over the windows and doors, but they're still very linear in some of the rounded door elements. So it might have, you know, a rounded top, but then you have your straight edge at the bottom of the glass. And I just think, to your point, I mean, when people are building more affordable structures, they probably are going to go with whatever is ready-made in terms of a door. So they're probably not going to be going high style and picking out, you know, a high style, very appropriate Victorian rounded and linear edged, you know, glass door or whatever. They're probably just going to go to, you know, more of a big box. And so eliminating the 90s look kind of came from like this mindset of like, okay, if I'm building an affordable structure, what am I going to go to that's ready-made? And is that more appropriate with the styles?
I think that there are oval doors that could be appropriate for vernacular style, but there's a bunch of oval doors that would not be appropriate. And I think defaulting to the half-light, full-light bungalow, you're going to have a door that is not going to be competing with the simplified design of the accessory building.
Right.
And I guess if there was somebody that had a Victorian home and they were building an ADU in back and they wanted to match the front doors, then they could come and talk to us about it.
Sure. I don't think they'd have a problem, we'd have a problem approving that. Or,
It is just $50 or plus mailing labels.
Just throwing it out there. It's not really a burn to my saddle, so I'm done.
All right. All right, any more burrs?
So I'll make the adjustments to the HRB policy 13. You can just review it at the next meeting. I don't think we need to have a conversation. I could just have it attached to the next agenda, and then I'll let the board members know when the HRB work session is with the city commission. And I think really the goal is, and I can help now that I heard you talk about what are encouraged and discouraged, to kind of put a little preamble together and really talk about the why to the city commission, rather than here's all the little, we don't have to go through every single little detail. I mean, we can answer questions they may have, but I think more of it's a presentation of the why. And that this is still implementing what we heard from the survey a year ago. I mean, we heard pretty clear that the community wanted this as an option.
Yeah, and I mean, one of their goals is housing, right? So, I mean, that's, we're trying to meet their goal as well.
All right.
All right, that it? Any more on compatible change that you had? All right, good. Well then, communications.
The CLG grant, Certified Local Government Grant, is opening up. And as you recall, as part of your work plan, you had education. And then some mailings for the homeowners packet. Luckily for the grant, we don't have to go into details. So what I'll be doing in the grant application is just putting kind of a line item of this amount of money that we're requesting will be used for one of the following bullet important things. So we can do conferences, we can do online education. I'll just throw everything up on the board. And then once we receive the grant, we'll see how much money we have, and then we can create a work session to kind of lay out how we want to spend it on education.
Great.
So I'll find out later this spring, and then we usually don't get the contract signed till September. So we have basically September through July to spend it. September of 26 through July of 27.
Oh, okay. Very good. Anything else? Anything from the board? All right, well, seeing none, I guess then we are adjourned for this evening. And